Well, it's been over a year since I bought a TS80 soldering iron, and frankly ever since then I have been using this practically every day. It has been an absolute fantastic soldering iron. So when Miniware contacted me a few months ago and said, hey, we're working on a more powerful version of the TS80 and would you like to try it out? I was like, heck yeah, I would. I mean, sure, yeah, I'll have a look at it. You can purchase the TS80P on its own, or you can purchase the kit I have here. Included in the box is a grounding wire and alligator clip, a high temperature silicone USB-C to USB-C cable, a Power Delivery 2.0 compatible power adapter, and of course the TS80P with a conical soldering tip included. If you're unfamiliar with the previous model, yes, that really is a 3.5mm audio jack connector. Let's start off by comparing the older TS80 to its new counterpart. Visually they share a lot of similarities. They both have the same OLED display and tactile buttons. They are both the same length and roughly the same diameter. The soldering tips are interchangeable between the TS80 and TS80P, which is awesome for forwards and backwards compatibility. Just like the older TS80, you can also flash custom firmware via a USB cable. And it has the same menu features that made the older TS80 so good. You can program the default temperature, standby temperature, sleep mode, left or right hand mode, temperature units, and so on. And just like the older TS80, the iron goes into sleep mode if it's not being used. And the moment you pick it up, the iron quickly heats back up to your programmed working temperature. So what's new then? Well, a new feature the TS80P brings to the table is the grip slides forward to release the soldering tip. This makes changing hot soldering tips a bit safer since you don't have to tightly grip and pull out a hot soldering tip. Power output has also been bumped up. Compared to the older TS80, the power output has gone from 18 watts to 30 watts on the TS80P. Starting from cold, the TS80P takes about 11.5 seconds to reach 350 Celsius. This makes the power output of the TS80P more than 65% higher over its older brother. And with no surprise to anyone, the TS80P has an easy victory, winning the warm-up test by 6.5 seconds. Old-time viewers might recognise this test. What I have here is a copper ring soldered to a copper wire. The test is pretty straightforward. Place the soldering iron on the copper ring and see how long it takes the iron to melt the solder, letting the ring drop. Both irons are set to 350 Celsius and both are using the D25 chisel tip. Between each round, I'll let the rings cool back down to room temperature and I'll swap the irons around to even out any variables as much as possible. The point of this test is not to prove what iron outperforms the other, that's already a given, but rather to demonstrate if the extra 65% power output translates into a noticeable real-world improvement. And I think I'll let the results speak for themselves in this test. Just like its predecessor, the TS80P has a good grip to tip distance, making it well suited for fine soldering jobs and pack enough power to punch well above its own weight. For example, desoldering these heat sinks is a real challenge for most irons. The pins of the heatsink are crimped into the heatsink body, and since a heatsink is naturally designed to dissipate heat, it can be a real challenge to melt the solder around the pins. Having said that, it only takes a couple of seconds to fully melt the solder. Considering the heatsink is soaking up a lot of heat out of the iron tip, this is a very good result. One subject I wanted to explain is the use of the ground wire. Not many people explain how and when to use it, so let's take a look at how to correctly ground your soldering iron. Hey everyone, I'm home. Timmy? Timmy, how many times have I told you to not smoke rosin? Don't backsass me, Timmy. Right, that's it, I've had enough. You're grounded for the weekend, mister. The grounding wire is connected to the iron by backing off the grounding screw a couple of turns, and sliding the connector under the screw before retightening. But the question still remains, what does the other end connect to exactly? To answer this, I'll take a walk outside my shed. Close to the mains power cable, you'll notice there is a steel rod hammered into the ground with a green wire connected to it. For obvious reasons, the green wire is referred to as earth. This green wire is also connected to all the power outlets in my shed. Here in New Zealand, this pin is earth, and to correctly ground our soldering iron, it needs to be connected to earth. The only trouble is you can't just jam the end of the cable into the power outlet. So how do we get around this problem? Well, chances are you probably have a veritable power supply similar to this one. If you take a close look at the front, there are 3 terminals. The red and black terminals are DC power out, which we're not interested in here. However, the green terminal in the middle is connected to earth through the power cable. So all I have to do is connect my power supply up to a power outlet. Unplug the alligator clip from the banana connector and plug it into the earth terminal on my power supply. Now you can use your soldering iron just as you normally would, but that leaves a question: why ground your iron in the first place? Well, if you're soldering sensitive electronics such as high frequency FETs, which are easy to damage with static discharge from your body or stray current from your soldering iron's power source, then grounding your iron provides an easy path for the current to discharge to earth without damaging any components along the way. For most jobs around the shed, you won't have to worry about grounding your iron, but when the time arises, now you'll know exactly how to ground your iron correctly. Don't backsass me, Timmy. So to summarise, the TS80P is simply a TS80 that is more powerful and has an easy release for its soldering tips. And frankly, I think that's great, because the TS80 was a really good performing soldering iron and they didn't have to change really much to make it even better. So I think the TS80P is a great buy. Now the question is, if you already own a TS80, should you buy the new model? Well, maybe. If you're a light duty user, in other words, you're soldering electronic circuit boards and light gauge cable and things, I don't really see the need to upgrade to the new model. However, if you're a person that solders things like XT60 connectors onto heavy gauge cable, then the extra performance the TS80P offers is well worth upgrading. One thing I'd love to see Miniware develop is a soldering station. I made this soldering station myself for my TS80 and it just made it so much more user friendly and it made it really great for using on a daily basis. At the moment, Miniware don't offer anything like what I've made here, but I would love to see what they can do to make a soldering station as a complement to their fantastic soldering iron. So thanks to Miniware for sending me their new soldering iron to review, and if you found the video useful, please give it a like, it'd be much appreciated, helps the channel out massively. And also, thank you very much for watching. Thanks to all my Patreon supporters, you guys are awesome, and I will see you in the next video. Bye for now.